You think you can just walk away from this? You ruined everything. This is not the time or place.
The whistle sliced the noon air like a blade through glass. Children's laughter stopped mid-echo, leaving behind only the hum of pool filters and the faint buzz of heat. Claire Whitmore's sunglasses caught the glare as she turned toward the shallow end. What she saw made her shoulders stiffen. The Harris family had entered her quiet pool afternoon. Marcus and Denise Harris, with their 2 young kids, Jamal and Ava, were easing into the turquoise water. Laughter soft, unbothered. But to Claire it felt like an intrusion she could not name, only feel. She sat straighter in her lounge chair, folding her glossy magazine shut as if sealing a thought she didn't want to admit. The laminated sign beside her, Pool Rules in bold navy print, glimmered under the sunlight. Claire's manicured finger traced the edge of the sign, stopping under one line. Guests must shower before entering the pool. Her lips tightened. Across the water, Marcus lifted Ava gently by her arms, letting her float for the first time. Denise clapped quietly, whispering encouragement. The family's joy carried no edge, no noise beyond the normal. Yet Claire's pulse rose. Something inside her, old habits, quiet fears, mistook peace for provocation. She stood. The whistle blew again. This time not from the lifeguard, but from her direction. A sound from a small metal whistle she had clipped to her beach bag, for emergencies. The lifeguard looked up in confusion. "Excuse me." Claire's voice rang out, loud enough to ripple through the air. You're supposed to rinse first. There are rules here." Marcus turned, one hand still under Ava's shoulders. His face stayed calm, unreadable. "Ma'am, we did," he said evenly. "We used the shower by the entrance." Claire pointed at the sign, like a teacher catching a student in defiance. "It's not just about that. This is a private area. I've been coming here for years. You should check with—" Denise's voice cut in, calm but firm. "We're guests, too." Room 213, a few heads turned. The sound of water dripping from pool noodles seemed louder now. The lifeguard, uncertain, blew his real whistle. Short, sharp, procedural, to signal everyone to calm down. Marcus guided his daughter toward the steps, setting her gently on the edge. "It's okay, sweetheart. Let's take a break." His movements were slow, deliberate, not submission but restraint. Denise wrapped a white towel with a blue stripe around Ava, shielding her from the rising tension, as if from the sun itself. Around them, phones began to rise, a silent choreography of recording hands. Red dots blinked like watchful eyes. Claire felt their gaze but doubled down. "I'm just trying to make sure the place stays respectable," she said, voice trembling between authority and insecurity. "People have to follow the same standards. I'm not being unreasonable." Marcus didn't argue. He simply met her eyes. "Respect should be a standard too," he said quietly. The air tightened. The reflection of the water flickered over Claire's pale face, like judgment written in light. She turned away, clutching her phone. The rule sign's reflection caught on its screen. The lifeguard whispered into his radio. A murmur ran through the guests, half discomfort, half disbelief. Somewhere a child's inflatable ring squeaked, and the sound seemed painfully loud in the silence that followed. Claire hesitated. Pride fought logic. Fear fought reason. She felt cornered not by the family, but by her own exposure, by the red dots, by the stillness of witnesses who saw everything. Her thumb trembled, hovering over the phone screen, then steadying herself. She spoke into the tense air. "I'm calling the police." Dozens of phones tilted toward her, lenses glinting like mirrors of consequence. The sunlight hit the water, blinding for a second, a flash before the story truly began. The bell chimed once, bright as glass, and the day pretended to be ordinary. Sophia at the front desk greeted the Harris family with a smile that reached her eyes. "Welcome," she said, sliding a map across the counter. Denise's bag rested by her feet. Jamal and Ava traced the blue line that marked the pool. Marcus set his ID down, steady. In the marble's reflection, they looked like any family on a short break, hopeful, tired, ready to breathe. From the lobby sofa, another guest watched with a cool glance over a phone screen. The stare held a second too long, then slipped away. Denise felt it but did not feed it. She anchored to Sophia's warmth. "Pool hours are 10 to 8, Sophia said. Wristbands are required. Towels are stacked by the cabanas. The printer hummed. Keycards slid into sleeves. Marcus tapped one card against the reader. The soft beep felt like a promise. Clear rules, same for everyone. Across the lobby, Claire Whitmore arrived on heels that announced each step. A conference badge swung from her neck, white letters on navy. "Excuse me," she told the bellhop with a smile too tight to be kind. "That is the Whitmore suite, not the Westmore." The bellhop apologized. She waved it away and switched the smile back on like a lamp. Their paths crossed at the elevator. Claire's badge brushed Marcus's sleeve. She offered a nod that looked past him. Denise pressed floor 2. Claire hit floor 6 and faced the mirrored wall. Jamal watched the numbers climb. The keycard sleeve peeked from Marcus's pocket like a quiet flag. On the pool deck, noon glare bounced off the water. 2 loungers sat under a canvas shade. Each held a folded white towel, perfectly arranged, still dry. Claire stepped out behind them, scanned the chairs and placed a sunscreen bottle between the towels, like a border marker. Denise paused. "Are these taken?" she asked. Claire did not face her. "We're using them," she said. "My husband will be down." Denise touched one towel. "No dampness, no imprint. We'll sit on the next ones," she told Marcus, keeping her voice even. He set their bags by a nearby chair. The children fanned themselves with the map. Sophia's warmth was still a memory, but another current moved now, thin, cool, familiar. Marcus checked the posted rules. Wristbands on. Shower first. Supervised children, clear. He nodded. The beeping keycard at the gate confirmed entry with the same soft promise. Claire returned with a second towel from the stack and draped it across a third lounger, expanding the claim. The sunscreen bottle stood like a small tower. Her conference lanyard flashed in the sun, a badge that spoke before she did. Denise guided Ava to the rinse shower. Marcus counted the steps his students learn for calm. Breathe in, breathe out. Focus on what is true. He looked at the water, at his children, at the chairs not yet used. The afternoon still felt savable. A bass note of tension lingered under the music of the day. It came from glances that lasted a beat too long, from objects set like fences, from the way a badge could act like a key and a gate at the same time. Rules should guard safety, not gatekeep dignity. The pool's calm surface mirrored the sky, but beneath it, everyone carried their own storms. Marcus Harris stood by the railing, watching the sunlight dance on the water. His students used to test him, raise their voices, spill their anger, wait to see if he'd crack. As a middle school principal, he learned the hardest lesson. Calm was not weakness. It was strength learned under pressure. He carried that lesson everywhere, even here, in the quiet shimmer of vacation hours that didn't yet feel restful. The hall pass in his wallet brushed against his thumb as he reached for his phone. It was old, laminated, with his school's name fading from the corner. A reminder of purpose. Protect order, even when chaos demanded attention. Across from him, Denise watched their children tug at floaties near the steps. She noticed what most people missed, the subtle things that spoke louder than words. The way Ava's shoulders tensed when a stranger stared. The way Marcus's jaw tightened but didn't move. Years in the hospital had trained her eyes to read signs before they became symptoms. Her folded nurse badge sat in her tote, still smudged from night shifts. Caring wasn't just her profession. It was her instinct. 5 minutes, then sunscreen again, she told the kids, her voice steady. They nodded, trusting that steadiness more than the water's promise. On the other side of the deck, Claire Whitmore flipped through her planner with careful precision. Her world was built on schedules and smiles, HOA meetings, charity luncheons, monthly reports for a neighborhood she'd curated like a garden. Every detail in her life had a label, clean, proper, safe. Her HOA binder sat open beside her like a rule book for belonging. But lately, control felt like a thread fraying in her hands. Her phone buzzed. Daniel Whitmore, unread message preview. "Can we talk tonight?" She let the notification fade, then cleared it, pretending she hadn't seen. The conference downstairs needed her attention. So did the appearance of order she fought to maintain. In her mind, the world divided easily. What fit and what didn't. What was respectable and what made others uneasy. She didn't see herself as unkind, only careful. But care built on fear has sharp edges. Marcus caught her reflection in the glass door, a poised woman checking her hair, adjusting her badge. Their eyes didn't meet, but the distance between them felt visible. Denise handed him a towel, white with a blue stripe still warm from the sun. The sound of splashing children mixed with the faint click of Claire's pen against her binder rings. A quiet rhythm of two worlds unaware they were about to collide. The pool looked calm. The afternoon looked ordinary. But the air had changed, thin and waiting. Claire's phone buzzed again. This time not from Daniel, but from a security notification about guest access in restricted zones. It was generic, but it tightened her focus. She looked back toward the shallow end, toward Marcus and his family, and a suspicion, small and shapeless, began to grow. Her thumb hovered over the screen. The same calm she'd practiced in meetings now blurred into something else. Fear dressed as duty. And then, with a single motion that would echo far beyond the pool, Claire pressed 911. The word concern left Claire's mouth like a stone tossed into still water. Small, but meant to ripple far. Hello, yes. I'd like to report a concern, she told the operator, her voice calm, deliberate, careful. The word sounded polite, almost noble. But the air around her shifted. It wasn't what she said. It was what everyone heard underneath it. Across the pool, Marcus Harris stood straight, his tone firm but quiet. For the record, he said, holding his phone toward his chest camera, we are hotel guests. His voice carried the balance of a man used to de-escalating storms before they reached the classroom door. Claire's phone glowed against her face. Marcus's lens glowed red against his. 2 recordings, 2 realities locked on the same moment. The crowd split in half without instruction. A couple nodded toward Claire. They knew her face from the conference program. The keynote smile printed beside the hotel logo. She must have her reasons, one whispered. Others didn't move. They just filmed silently. Their eyes traced the small tremor in Claire's hand. The slow blinking of the lifeguard. The shrinking posture of the children, Sophia. The front desk clerk hurried through the gate, clutching a piece of printer paper. Hotel policy, printed in black and white. The ink was still faintly warm. Ma'am, she said carefully, all guests with wristbands are permitted pool access. There's no private reservation right now. Claire didn't answer. Her finger stayed on the pool rules sign, tapping at one line as if to prove something invisible. I'm not saying they're breaking rules, she said, though her tone contradicted her words. It just didn't feel right. The word feel carried further than she expected. Denise moved closer to her children. Jamal's fingers tightened around the wet strap of his goggles. Ava's small hand reached for her mother's, her reflection trembling on the water's edge. The pool that had once felt endless now looked shallow, boxed in by the gazes of strangers. The lifeguard's whistle pierced the air again, a sharp command to calm down that only added to the tension. Water rippled from the sudden movement of a swimmer leaving, dripping trails of silence behind. Claire's phone remained against her ear, her expression tightening as she repeated her version. Yes, I'm at the Sunstone Hotel pool. There's a situation. Some guests are making people uncomfortable. I'm just asking for someone to check. Her words fell like soft fabric over steel. Concern, situation, uncomfortable. None of them sounded harsh. Yet each one pulled a thread from dignity itself. Marcus stayed still. Keep recording, he said to Denise quietly. Truth has a short memory without proof. Sophia looked between them, one holding a rule sheet, the other holding a phone. Between paper and camera, truth wavered like light under water. Claire turned slightly, scanning the crowd. The same people who smiled at her during breakfast now kept their distance. They were waiting, unsure whether to support her sense of order or the family's calm insistence on belonging. In that waiting, everyone revealed themselves. Sophia stepped forward once more. Ma'am, if you'll just... But Claire lifted her free hand, silencing her with a gesture meant for control, not peace. The sheet of hotel policy fluttered down, landing at the pool's edge, its corners darkened by water splashes. For a moment, no one spoke. Only the sound of filters hummed beneath the surface, steady, impartial, endless. Then faintly in the distance, the echo of sirens began to rise. Claire's jaw tightened. Marcus's eyes flicked toward the gate. Ava whispered, "Mom, are they coming here?" Denise didn't answer. She just pulled her children closer. The white towel with the blue stripe wrapping them like a shield. The red recording dot on Marcus's phone blinked once, then steadied, unwavering, unblinking, waiting for what would come next. The first flash of blue light broke the pool's reflection, turning calm water into glass. 2 patrol cars rolled up beside the hotel patio, engines low, radios murmuring. The sirens cut, but the color stayed, a pulse of warning against the afternoon sky. Guests froze mid-step, half curious, half afraid of what story they'd now become part of. Sergeant Ruiz stepped through the gate, uniform crisp, eyes scanning the scene before speaking. His voice was measured, not unkind, but trained for control. "Everyone take a breath," he said. "Who's the reporting party?" Claire raised her hand halfway, hesitant yet certain, a gesture rehearsed by privilege. "That would be me," she said. "I made the call." Marcus stood still, phone still recording. He looked neither hostile nor apologetic, just steady. Denise rested a hand on Ava's shoulder, her other arm around Jamal, both children watching the officers with wide, unblinking eyes. Ruiz turned to Marcus. "Sir, your name?" "Marcus Harris," he replied. "My family and I are guests here. Room 213. Without a word, Marcus pulled his key card from his pocket. It beeped softly as he tapped it against the reader on the pool gate, proof of belonging made audible. He handed over a folded receipt and held up the blue wristbands still on their arms. Sophia stepped forward from the small crowd, holding her own phone with the booking record open. "They checked in this morning." "Everything's valid," she said firmly. Ruiz nodded, glancing at her, then at Claire. "All right. What exactly is the issue here, ma'am?" Claire hesitated, realizing the weight of her own words now had witnesses in uniform. "It's just," she started, voice thinning. "They were making others uncomfortable." The word hung heavy as heat. Others. It didn't describe. It divided. Ruiz's expression didn't change, but the silence afterward did. A few guests exchanged looks. One man near the cabana muttered, "Uncomfortable? For what, swimming?" Claire's face stiffened. "You're twisting my words. I just didn't like the tension." Ruiz's tone stayed level. "I'm only asking for facts, ma'am. Was anyone breaking hotel rules? Being disruptive?" Her mouth opened, then closed. She looked toward the pool rules sign as if it might save her. "It's not about rules," she said. "It's about respect. There's a standard here." Behind her, someone raised a phone. "Sergeant, I have the whole thing on video," a woman said quietly. They were just swimming. The kids didn't even splash anyone. Ruiz motioned for her to come forward. The phone screen glowed between them, steady footage of the moment before the call. No shouting, no disturbance, just laughter, clear and harmless. The officer sighed, polite but final. "All right," he said, returning the phone. "I'm not seeing a violation here. Everyone has the right to use this area as long as they follow posted policy." The blue light from his body camera shimmered across the water, blending with the pool's reflection, a symbol of truth observed, not claimed. Around them, the hum of tension began to fade, replaced by the quiet shuffle of witnesses deciding what to believe. Marcus said nothing. He simply gathered the towel, the same white one with the blue stripe, and placed it gently over the back of a chair, reclaiming ordinary space. Claire's phone buzzed in her hand. The caller ID lit up the screen. Daniel Whitmore. Ruiz was turning away when she swiped to answer. Her voice shook as she tried to sound composed. "Hi, The speaker caught her words loud and clear for everyone to hear. Daniel's voice came through, calm, deliberate, unmistakably authoritative. "Claire," he said, "what did you just do?" The ripples in the pool stilled. Every head turned. The voice on the phone didn't shout. It stilled the air. "Sergeant Ruiz," it said, steady and calm through the speaker. "This is Daniel Whitmore. May I ask what's happening at the Sunstone Hotel pool right now?" The name landed like a weight dropped in water. Every conversation stopped. Even the pool filters seemed to hush. Ruiz's eyes narrowed, a flicker of recognition sharpening his expression. He straightened his posture. "Yes, sir," he replied carefully. "I'm on site. We received a citizen complaint about pool access. Situation's under review." There was a brief pause. just long enough for Claire to realize what had shifted. She felt every camera, every stare turn toward her. "Sergeant," Daniel continued, his tone precise, professional, but with an undertone that demanded clarity. "You've got my wife there, correct?" Ruiz's brow furrowed. "That's correct, Mr. Whitmore." The crowd exchanged murmurs. A woman whispered, "Wait, his wife?" Another pulled out her phone again, red recording dot already glowing. Claire's conference badge caught the sunlight as it swayed against her blouse. A second ago, it had felt like armor, a symbol of her position, her professionalism. Now, compared to her husband's title, it looked suddenly small. Daniel went on, his voice still even. "Sergeant, for transparency, I currently chair the city's Police Accountability Board. I also begin next quarter as civilian oversight liaison for hotel and private security partners. You're being recorded on multiple devices, so let's make sure the report reflects factual grounds only." The color drained from Claire's face. The word accountability hit harder than sirens. Ruiz's tone softened, almost deferential. "Understood, sir. I've already verified all guests involved are registered." "No violations found? That's good," Daniel said. "Now I'd like the incident documented as a bias-triggered complaint for pattern review. My office is tracking civilian-initiated reports that involve subjective discomfort instead of factual infractions. This appears to fit that category." Claire's hand trembled slightly, still holding the phone. Her earlier confidence and her certainty evaporated into a kind of stunned silence. "Daniel, that's not—" she began, her voice cracking, but he cut her off gently. "Claire, I need you to stop talking for a moment. The less you say, the better." The sound of her name in that tone, calm, public, and procedural, struck her harder than anger could. The crowd watched as the power she once held in posture and tone slipped away, replaced by something quieter. Exposure. Marcus stood nearby, motionless, his phone still recording. He hadn't moved since the voice began speaking. But now, for the first time, there was something different in his eyes. Not anger, not victory, just the deep exhale of someone watching truth surface on its own. Sophia lowered her printed policy sheet. The paper, once her shield, now felt redundant. Real authority had entered through a speakerphone. Daniel's voice carried through the quiet, like an announcement meant for more than the people standing there. "Sergeant, make sure your body cam footage stays intact. The official record should reflect that my wife made a non-emergency complaint against a registered guest family, without factual basis. That's critical context." Claire's jaw tightened. "Daniel, please," she whispered, but her voice barely made it past the phone's mic. Ruiz nodded once. "Copy that, sir. I'll document it accordingly." The guests stayed silent. Even the children seemed to understand something irreversible was happening. That fairness was finding its footing. Claire looked down at her badge again, her thumb tracing the embossed conference logo. It had once symbolized order, community, control. Now, under the same light that gleamed off the officer's badge, it looked like imitation authority, the difference between power claimed and power earned. Daniel's tone softened slightly. "Claire," he said, "you're not the first person to make a bad call. But what happens next, that's what defines you." For a long moment, no one breathed. Claire's shoulders fell and she finally whispered, "I understand." Daniel's voice turned firm again. "Good. Then stay where you are." His words cut through the poolside air, final and immovable. "I'm on my way." The speaker clicked. Silence swallowed the patio. All around, phones tilted toward the hotel's front drive. The blue lights reflected off windshields now, waiting for the next arrival. The sound of car doors closing echoed sharper than the sirens before them. Daniel Whitmore stepped into the lobby, not rushing, not angry, just composed in a way that made silence follow him. His presence shifted the air like gravity rebalancing. He didn't ask for privacy. He moved straight to the poolside where Sergeant Ruiz stood waiting, tablet in hand. Every camera phone turned toward him, sensing that something larger than an argument was now unfolding. "Sergeant," Daniel said, voice steady, "we'll do this right here. No side rooms, no whispers." Ruiz nodded, understanding. He briefed Daniel quickly. No violations, full documentation, witnesses consistent. Daniel listened without interruption, his expression unreadable. The pool behind them shimmered with police lights reflecting off its surface, turning blue into a mirror of consequence. "Good," Daniel said. "Let's make sure this doesn't end as a headline. It should begin as a learning point." He gestured toward the hotel manager, who stood near Sophia, pale but attentive. "I'll need a written incident log from your staff. Within the hour. Then we'll talk training." "Training?" The manager repeated, uncertain. "Bias response," Daniel clarified. "For every staff member and conference guest who wants it. Rapid deployment, clear takeaways. We'll call it daylight review. People need to know how bias works when they think they're just following rules." Sophia caught his words while typing. Her screen filled with lines of PR draft language. Each sentence polished, deleted, rewritten again. The blinking cursor felt alive, waiting for truth to be phrased carefully enough to survive the internet. On another tab, the first video clip had already gone public. The thumbnail showed the moment Claire pointed toward the pool rules sign. Underneath it, comments multiplied faster than they could be read. Same story, different zip code. Her husband's on the board. "Oh, this is bigger." The hotel's PR team scrambled in the background. A message appeared at the top of Sophia's draft. Statement. Draft. "We acknowledge an incident at our facility involving a guest interaction currently under review. The hotel is cooperating with oversight authorities to ensure fairness, transparency, and accountability." The cursor blinked again, as if questioning whether those words were enough. A few feet away, Claire stood before the mirror in the lobby restroom. Her reflection looked back like a stranger. Behind her, the faint hum of the lobby fountain sounded like a slow metronome. Steady, relentless, through the thin wall. She could still hear fragments of conversation. Viral already. The board chair's wife. It's everywhere. Each phrase hit like an echo of choices she couldn't rewind. Her badge lay on the sink, flipped face down. The conference logo caught the light once before fading back into shadow. She splashed cold water on her face, but the reflection didn't soften. It wasn't the image that haunted her. It was the sound of Daniel's voice, calm and public, saying, "Let's make this a lesson." Outside, Ruiz finished logging the report. Sophia sent the first official email draft. The blinking cursor finally stilled. And through it all, Daniel's words stayed in the air, quiet but unmissable. "Accountability is not revenge. It is a promise to do better in daylight." The first sound was not an argument. It was the hum of a drill. In the hotel courtyard, workers fastened a new sign to the wall near the pool entrance. The old laminated one, faded, rigid, and full of red warnings, lay folded in a file marked retired. The sun caught the edge of the fresh lettering, "Pool access. All registered guests welcome. Respect and safety for everyone." The world had turned quietly since that day. Yet what happened here had traveled far. Through screens, through news clips, through conversations people didn't expect to have. And now those most affected were sitting together in one room, trying to begin again. Daniel Whitmore sat at the head of the table, not as the husband or the official, but as the mediator. "We're not here to replay the past," he said. "We're here to understand what it showed us." His voice was even, the kind of tone that built order out of chaos. Claire sat to his right, her conference badge gone, replaced by a plain notebook. Her hands stayed clasped, still but tense. Across from her sat Marcus and Denise Harris side by side, calm, not because they had forgotten, but because they had practiced calm their whole lives. Daniel looked at Claire. "You can begin." Her words came slow, unguarded. "I was wrong," she said. "I made a judgment I didn't see as bias, but it was. I can't undo what I did, but I can acknowledge it. Without excuses." Marcus nodded once, not in forgiveness, but in recognition. "The harm," he said gently, "wasn't just the call. It was being treated like we didn't belong in a place we'd paid for. Like our presence needed permission. That's what our kids will remember unless we teach them something different now," Denise added softly. "Belonging isn't a luxury. It's basic care." For a moment, the air carried the weight of both truth and possibility. Daniel took a note, then looked to the hotel manager sitting nearby. "You've started the signage change?" "Yes, sir," the manager said. "We've also rewritten our guest conduct policy. The language is clear now. No gray areas for subjective complaints." "Good." Daniel said. Add a bias response contact at the bottom of each notice. And schedule the triage training for next week. Sophia, who had stood quietly near the door, nodded. Already done. We're calling it the Daylight Initiative. Across the room, Claire listened, not speaking, just absorbing what accountability sounded like when it became action. Later that afternoon, the Harris family returned to the pool. A small group of reporters stood at a distance, watching the workers finish the last few screws on the new sign. The sound of the drill echoed briefly, then stopped. Ava peered into the water, her reflection rippling softly in the blue. "Daddy," she asked, "can we swim now?" Marcus looked at the sign, then at her, a smile rising slow, certain. "Yes," he said. "Now we can." The water shimmered again, calm and open, belonging to everyone. The pool looked the same, but something underneath it had changed. Morning sunlight stretched across the courtyard, glinting off calm water that now reflected faces without dividing them. The Harris children stood at the shallow end again, toes dipping into the cool blue they had once been pulled away from. This time there were no glances, no whispers, just the quiet permission of normal life restored. Ava lifted her goggles, looked toward the lifeguard, and waited. He didn't blow the whistle. Instead, he nodded once, a small gesture that replaced a rule with trust. Jamal jumped in first, sending tiny waves rolling outward like forgiveness in motion. Across the patio, Claire Whitmore stood by the fence, hands finally unclenched. Her conference lanyard was gone, replaced by stillness. She watched her husband speak with Sergeant Ruiz and Sophia near the front desk. Calm, civil, transparent. No closed doors, no quiet damage control. Just truth handled in daylight, the way Daniel always said it should be. Ruiz finished the report and handed Daniel the clipboard. Daniel scanned the page, then signed neatly at the bottom. "Thank you, Sergeant," he said. "And thank you, Ms. Flores, for how you handled everything." Sophia gave a small smile, tired but proud. "We're updating procedures today," she said. "Complaint reviews, signage, everything. That's how it sticks," Daniel replied. "Change isn't apology. It's structure." Claire listened from a few paces away, the sound of the pen scratching against paper landing heavier than any reprimand. She had spent days replaying her own words, hearing them in the tone she had refused to notice before. But the anger in her wasn't toward exposure anymore. It was toward blindness. Now she just watched the family she'd once mistaken for trespassers swim freely under the same sun she stood beneath. There was no speech to make, no stage to reclaim. The moment itself was lesson enough. At the far corner, a maintenance worker adjusted a small dome camera overlooking the pool. Its red recording dot blinked once, then steadied into a solid light. Ordinary, impartial, always on. The symbol that once felt like surveillance now carried a different meaning. Fairness that didn't look away. Daniel turned toward Claire. "We'll finalize the public statement this afternoon," he said quietly. "After that, we can go home." She nodded. "I'd like to stop by the training session tomorrow. Listen in." "Listening is a good place to start," he said, and walked toward the exit. By the pool's edge, Denise wrung out a towel, the same white one with the blue stripe, and draped it over the railing to dry. A breeze lifted its edge, catching sunlight against the metal rail where another towel soon joined it, placed there by Claire herself. The two fabrics touched lightly in the wind, side by side, equal weight. Ava floated on her back now, eyes to the sky. Jamal laughed as water splashed over the new sign, clear, inclusive, and simple. The surface stilled, leaving small ripples that carried outward in perfect circles, widening with every second. Claire looked once more at that surface, how easily it accepted everything that touched it without choosing sides. And for the first time she understood. Justice is not loud. It's the quiet right to belong.